So I just got back from a pretty awesome trip to Michigan, but since then I've been seriously addicted to the Foredune ecosystem. So I figured that today we can just shoot a short little video about three pretty cool species that you get occurring in the Foredune, and we'll kick things off with the grass, of course, because I'm obsessed with the Poaceae. With these wonderful golden quills right here, those are the seed heads belonging to Ammophila breviligulata, which is a bit of a mouthful, also known as the American marram grass. The name there, Ammophila, means phila, love, ammo, sand. So it's a lover of sand, and the breviligulata means brief ligule. So on the leaves of this plant, you'll have a brief ligule, a short collar, and it loves sand. So that's kind of, I love it when a scientific name really kind of hones you in on what this plant is looking like, what it's operating under, things of that nature. But this is a really cool grass because you really only see it. Its natural range in the U.S. is, I believe it's only found in the coasts of like Great Lakes, and the east coast of the Atlantic Ocean is where you're going to find Ammophila breviligulata in the U.S. I think there's a European species, Ammophila arenaria, I believe, which has been introduced in the Pacific Northwest for like stabilization projects. We're not talking about that though, but I'll flash up a map of this guy's range real fast just to back up what I'm saying. There it is. But so Ammophila breviligulata, it's really cool because this guy's habitat, it seems to only be found on the unstable young dunes. Okay, on more mature dunes, the population of this plant kind of thins out, which intrigued me right away when I read that, because it seemed to me to be an example of successional facilitation, where like a pioneer species like this Ammophila will by its own presence eventually render its habitat unusable for itself and usable for later successional species, which, I don't know if that's what's going on. I haven't read any research papers about it or anything, just meaninglessly firing off hypotheses out here. But what makes the Ammophila so successful in this shifting sands of this dune habitat, the young dune habitat, which aren't really stabilized, you can see it poking out right here. It's these rhizomes. This is a very, very strongly rhizomatous grass, okay? And as you can see right here, we've got some extending out of this little like blowout here. You got a big cluster of Ammophila, and then you follow it down and you just see these little snake-like rhizomes. Oh yeah. So that's pretty badass. Ammophila breviligulata. Yeah, that's cool. So this beautiful bronze character is who we're going to be talking about next. This is Comrade Juniper. Juniper's communist variety depressa. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit more about the different varieties of this species. First thing we're going to talk about, of course, is the habitat. As I kind of mentioned in the beginning of the video, we're shooting in foredunes today, so it's got a preference for sandy sites. Additionally, something cool about this one in particular, though, is that it's also got a noted preference for sites that are acidic or calcareous. Okay, and I've been since I got back from Michigan, been doing a lot of thinking about the mineralogy of these dunes and stuff like that. Like, is there calcareous compounds in here that could be influencing the plant community, which is something I had never really thought of before, which is kind of dumb because I do love a calcareous ecosystem. But we're going to talk about that guy later. But back to Juniper's communist variety depressa. The identification on this plant, it's pretty easy. It's a conifer, so you're looking at needles, not leaves. There's your starter. The needles, they're very prickly, youch. But the needles, they've got a beautiful white band across the top of them of I think that's referred to as an epicuticular wax, I reckon. That beautiful white banding. Isn't that something? I don't see this in, I think we got 3 juniper species technically in the area. There's Juniperus communis var depressa, this guy right here, the sprawling juniper, or Comrade Juniper as I prefer to refer to it as. You've got him, you've got Juniperus virginiana, the eastern red cedar, and you've got Juniperus horizontalis, the creeping juniper, which is, I believe that's kind of restricted to like northern Michigan. I don't know, I think pretty sure it's listed as extirpated from Indiana, Juniperus horizontalis. But Juniperus horizontalis, it looks completely, it's got a completely different habit. You know, horizontalis, it's horizontal across the ground. Juniperus communis is like a more of an upright shrub, and then Juniperus virginiana is like a proper tree. And that's how you can use habit to split up all your Juniperuses. If you're looking at the needles in Juniperus communis var depressa, they're going to be in whorls of 3 about the stem. And note, of course, again, that white epicuticular wax. This is a dioecious plant. It's also, interestingly enough, this plant has the widest distribution of any woody plant in the world. It is, I believe it's, so Juniperus communis is one species divided to 2 subspecies, and I think, let me check my notebook real fast, I think it's like 2 subspecies, 6 varieties. Can't flip through my notebook and do this at the same time. Sorry, 1 species, 2 subspecies, and 7 varieties. So that's how you can have the widest distribution and still be 1 species. I'm amazed that they haven't split it up. But anyway, there you go, folks. Juniperus communis var depressa. Beautiful. So growing just adjacent to the state-threatened Juniperus communis var depressa, we've got the, interestingly enough, and within view of the State Park Pavilion, we've got the state endangered, it appears to me, at least, looking like the state endangered Thuya occidentalis, the northern white cedar. Keep in mind, this is not a true cedar, not a member of the genus Cedrus, but that's beside the point. This is this is quite a cool tree. It's got these beautiful fans of scaly foliage. Look at that. Absolutely wonderful. And this tree, this is a monoecious, so we can contrast that with the dioecious Juniperus that we just saw. Okay, so a monoecious, one house, you're going to have the male and female reproductive parts on the same plant. And as we can see right here, we have the female cones, the megastrobili. There are seeds in there, as you can see. That's the megastrobili of the cone. It's a cypress cone, because this is in the Cupressaceae. If it would focus. There you go. They're kind of weird, these cones, but very neat. But that's the megastrobili, and let me find a branch that's got some mini strobili hanging out on it. Those little brown ones. At the, that's not very good. Hang on. So I'm a little shaky, but if you look at the apex of some of these, some of this foliage, you'll see it turns brown up there at the tip. Those are the, oh god, this is kind of vomit-inducing. But those are the, I'll try to throw up a picture of them in the video. Those are the mini strobili, the pollen cones, as you can see, occurring on the same individual. Beautiful. This is another tree, or another plant, I should say. It's got a preference for calcareous soils. I see it a lot of times I typically see it in wetland settings. I see it in fens. I've heard of it reported in swamps, bogs, seen it in swales. But it's a really cool tree because this is one where it'll get knocked over. I've seen them knocked over in a fen, and they're just growing sideways, no problem, because they're still rooted into the mat. It's such a tough tree, these are, and they're absolutely hounded by deer, 100%. So it's awesome to see that this little grove of them has actually managed to reach sexual maturity, and hopefully there are efforts going on to utilize this stock to kind of reintroduce this tree into the wild, because really most people's only familiarity with this tree comes in the form of the horticultural cultivar of it, you know, the arbor vitae. Don't call it arbor vitae, call it thuya, please. Just be respectful to it, because it's an awesome tree, and you only see it in these dopey little shrubs that are 4 feet tall, when in actuality it's this is one of the cooler trees you're ever going to run into. One of our neat conifers that we get in the Chicago region. So that's a rant about thuya. Interesting to run into it in the Foredunes, but not uncommon, or not unheard of, I should say, given the also the presence of the Juniperus communis, letting me know that there's probably some calcareous action going on here. Yeah, so there you go. Ammophila, thuya, and Juniperus. Have a good one, folks.